Holy smokes, I met Oprah. I still can't believe it. I met Oprah, and it was truly one of the most monumental experiences of my life. And I have to share this with you because in the very brief time that I met her, not only did I get like the worst picture ever with her, we'll talk about that later, but the other thing was that I learned so many lessons just being around her for a short period of time that will impact me forever, and I wanted to share them with you. So I'm gonna dive into all of them. Give this video a like if you're excited to hear all of the lessons I learned from meeting Oprah Winfrey. First, let me provide you with a little bit of a backstory. So I have been watching Oprah since I was a little girl. She went on the air before I was even born, and I grew up watching her, and I remember watching her when I was little thinking, this woman and what she does for a living, this is what I want to do. And when you see somebody do something that might seem crazy, she was speaking and entertaining and talking and communicating and inspiring people for a living, it became possible for me that that would be something that I could do. It's the reason that I became a journalist. It's the reason that I went to broadcasting school in the first place. She really is the greatest mentor, without even knowing it, that I've ever had in my life, in my career. And so to meet her was incredible. And I remember when I was in high school and I was going through a pretty difficult time because I was being bullied and I had kind of been like exiled, I'd say, from my friend group almost for a full year. And I would eat lunch alone every day. And it was just a really hard, challenging time. And I remember hearing this quote from Oprah where she said, when I was a little girl, I knew I was destined for greatness. I knew it. I don't remember the exact quote, but I remember hearing her say that. And she's like, I had this little voice inside me where I just knew I was destined for greatness. And I heard it and I held on to it and I kept telling myself the same thing. I was like, I am destined for greatness. I am destined for greatness. And I would hold on to that no matter what was happening in my life. And it has been like the one steadfast thing that has kept me going. And I truly believe in myself, and I know that I am destined to do great things and greatness if I believe it first. Doesn't matter what anyone else thinks, it's me believing it first. So to say that she's been instrumental in my life is the understatement of the century. And so to be in her vicinity for a short period of time and to meet her, these were the 5 lessons that I took out of our meeting that will stick with me forever, and I think they'll be really impactful for you as well. Lesson number 1 is own who you are. So I'm standing there waiting to get my picture taken, and it's a meet and greet before Oprah speaks in Vancouver, which is where I'm from. So she's speaking in Vancouver and she's on her Canadian tour, and I get these meet and greet tickets for my mom and I end up being the first person in line. It was like everyone got scared and moved behind me, so I ended up being the first person. So I'm first in line and I see and hear Oprah walking down the hall, and she goes, "We're here to take pictures." Like exactly what you would think she would say. Joy rising! And she's wearing her blue velour tracksuit, and she is exactly who you think she would be. She's grounded, down to earth, the most warm energy, and she just owns it. She owns and that is magnetic. She knows who she is. She knows how she wants to show up in the world. And when you know those two things, it creates this magnetism where people will line up. There was about 100 people lined up behind me just to meet her for a split second.
Or if you in any way are pretending to be something that you are not, you will never, ever become all that you were meant to be. It just cannot happen if you're living in some kind of pretense, phony world.
Lesson number 2, she's human. I think when you idolize someone for as long as I've idolized Oprah, you put them on a pedestal. But when I met her and also when I heard her speak that night, it made me realize that she, at the end of the day, is no different than you and I. And she has overcome some of the most incredible obstacles to getting to where she is today. And it really wasn't in the cards for her to get to where she is today. But she believed she was destined for greatness, which is what I mentioned earlier. And because she believed that with every bone in her body, every obstacle disappeared. And so as I sat there listening to her, all I could think was, if she can do it with the most difficult upbringing and circumstances, why can't I and why can't you?
Mississippi, obviously a black girl. At the time we were called colored people, Negroes. And my grandmother was a maid. That's all she ever knew. The only real expectation she held for me was that I would one day become a maid and, in her words, have some good white folks, meaning people who would not speak negatively about me, who would allow me to take food home, who would be good to me, would treat me with some level of dignity and respect. That was my grandmother's dream for me. But I had another dream for myself, another, more than a dream. I had a belief for myself.
I'm curious actually if you have ever been motivated like that or felt that sense of belief in yourself because of something Oprah has said, or if maybe I've never said anything that's made you really believe in yourself and know that you can do this. If you have, I would love for you to share it in the comments below. It would be really cool to see your feedback on that. Lesson number 3, practice makes perfect. When Oprah was standing on stage and she was talking about her journey, she said she's done 37,000 interviews, perfecting her craft. She's still doing them to this day. Did she start out being stellar? No, but she's become the best in the world. And for me, that makes so much sense, especially today when people think that overnight success happens overnight. Overnight success takes 10, 20, 30 years, and it takes practice, 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 practice. No one who is great at what they do and no one who's achieved greatness has achieved it by not doing the work, taking the action, being crappy first, and then learning to get better and learning to become the best. And one other thing that she mentioned was that when she started in her career, she would always kind of like reference or model herself after Barbara Walters, who was one of her idols and another one of mine. And then she started to find her voice. And that's where the practice comes in as well. And it's so powerful. So if you give up after doing 1 or 2 videos or podcasts or posts, you don't really deserve the success. Lesson number 4, keep that ego in check. Oprah Winfrey, one of the biggest names on the planet, one of the most famous humans ever. And she is grounded, she is down to earth. She hears you, she sees you, and she talked a lot about ego when she brought out Eckhart Tolle, which I think I'm saying his name correctly. I've read his books, but not sure on the name pronunciation. And they talked about his book, A New Earth, and dove into the topic of ego a lot. And she mentioned that she kind of always is battling with it. And the interesting thing is that ego is not being stuck up or snooty or cocky or any of those things. Ego really is attaching yourself to anything external. So it's attaching yourself to a job, to a home, to a partner, to a car, to anything that is external. When you're attached to those things and they give you meaning and they give you fulfillment, that means your ego is at play and you're not actually being your true, authentic self, which I mentioned in my first lesson is something that Oprah does so well. She just is who she is and it's magnetic and she's grounded in who she is. That makes people want to be around you. When you're coming from ego, it's almost like a repellent. So it's interesting to ask yourself, what are you attaching yourself to? We all do it. I do it too.
In the business of showing myself. So I'm aware that there's a lot of egotism involved in this business. And I always thought that I had my ego in check until I realized that it's not just the obvious. It's not always acting out or showing off. In 2008, I chose Eckhart Tolle's book, A New Earth, for my book club. And this book will change the way you view your life and the people around you and your world. Chapters 3 and 4 literally changed the way I saw myself and my ego. It changed for me what ego meant, and totally says that any identification with form, meaning any identifying with something that is not the center of yourself. That is possessions, material things, cars, titles, social status.
Lesson number 5, validating people is one of the greatest forms of creating your influence. So I am backstage, I'm about to have my moment, my little meet and greet with Oprah, and I have max 30 seconds, and they're shuffling people through because it's Oprah, and a lot of people want to meet her, and she's about to go on stage in like half an hour. So I know I don't have much time, and I can just go in there and I can take a picture, and that can be it. But I knew I wanted to make the moment count. I wanted to be able to give her gratitude for how much she's impacted my life. Whether she remembered it or not, it meant a lot to me to be able to share that with her. So I walk in, I see her, I say, "Hi, Miss Winfrey. I just want to say I would not be who I am today or doing what I do for a living if I hadn't grown up watching you being your authentic self every single day. And I just wanted to say thank you." And she put her arm around me and she said, "That's really nice," something along those lines. I kind of blacked out. So excited. And then we take the picture, and then her cameraman was like, "Oh, your eyes are closed, we need to take it again." So I'm like, okay, I'm still here for a couple seconds. So he takes another picture. As he's taking another picture, she goes, "So what do you do?" And so I answer the question as he's taking the picture, which is part of the reason the picture is not my finest. But I said, I empower entrepreneurs to share their genius with the world via social media, particularly YouTube. And I'm thinking, she's not gonna remember this. She's Oprah freaking Winfrey. She's meeting about 100 people. She's about to go on stage, and she repeats it. And she repeats it as I walk out of the room. She repeats, "Share your genius. I like that." And she repeats it again, "Share your genius. I like that." So I'm thinking, wow, at least, I mean, she heard me. That's unbelievable. But I'm thinking, she's never gonna remember this. Like, who am I? We leave. I go and sit down. My mom and I sit down in our seats. And all of a sudden, she does this.
I was meeting some people earlier today who were telling me that a young woman was telling me how I changed the trajectory of her life, and someone else says that they're now training entrepreneurs to be their own, to fulfill their own geniusness, and just all the different lessons learned from the Oprah Show. So
and for me in that moment, I was like, wow, that is the power of being present, actually hearing people and actually seeing people. That validation that she actually heard and saw me made me feel so special and so joyful that it only deepened my respect for her and my admiration for her. So never discount or discredit being truly present with people when you meet them, because the more present you are, the more that you can actually hear and see them, and the more that you can actually validate their existence. And one thing Oprah said on stage, which I found really interesting, was that no matter how big the celebrity is that she's interviewed, they pretty much all ask the same question after the interview. And the question is, "So is that good?" Everybody wants to know that they're doing okay. Everybody wants to be validated in some kind of way. So when you can provide that, it means a lot, and it goes a long way, and it's part of the reason that she's Oprah Winfrey. And one little bonus, I guess, lesson that I wanted to share is that she said something on stage that is something that I live by, which is your legacy is the impact that you're making. It's the people who watch this video.
your legacy, she says, your legacy is every life you've touched. So every person who stood here tonight, you are my legacy.
It's the people who have decided to work with me in some way, shape, or form. It's anybody who's listened to a podcast episode or anybody who's come into contact. She mentioned this in relation to her Oprah show and talking about the experience of meeting me and me telling her what an impact that had on me, and that's her legacy. And for me, that's why I do what I do, and that's why I often say my mission is to create success ripples. It's to help you show up and create the impact you're meant to make and reach the people that you're meant to reach so that you can have a great influence on the world. And so that is your legacy. It's my legacy, and it's such a joy and an honor to have you here, and I don't take it for granted. So it only reaffirmed that I'm on the right track and that I'm building something. I'm building a legacy that hopefully is built to last. So that's my crazy story about Oprah. It was honestly one of the coolest moments of my life. I know I'm just getting started. There's gonna be a lot more cool moments. I'm hoping I get a redo on the picture because it's not my finest. But it's Oprah Winfrey, and I think the value of what I said in that moment meant a lot more than what the picture actually looked like. So if you enjoyed this video or took something from it, let me know in the comments below. Give it a like and be sure to subscribe, and don't forget to take a screenshot and tag me and Oprah, of course, on Instagram, and let me know what you thought of the video and what you learned. Thank you so much as always for watching, means the world, and I'll see you in the next video.